The command center hummed with low, steady energy, the quiet buzz of computers and the occasional chatter of officers. Jonah sat at his console, his fingers moving deftly across the touchscreens, analyzing space activity in the sector. The vastness of space was deceptively serene, but he knew better. The peace between Earth and the Galactic Council had always been delicate, like a truce hanging by the thinnest of threads. He'd spent countless hours monitoring the galaxy's pulse, each day hoping to never see that thread snap. A cold, unsettling feeling settled in the pit of his stomach. Something felt off, though he couldn't put his finger on it. Before he could dwell too long, a blaring alert filled the room. Red lights flashed, and the command center came alive with alarmed voices. Jonah's heart pounded, and he exchanged a quick, anxious look with Lieutenant Reyes, his closest colleague. Reyes was pale, her expression mirroring his own worry. "Commander Jonah," a voice crackled in his earpiece. "An incoming transmission from the Galactic Council. Priority 1. Putting it through now." Jonah straightened in his seat, bracing himself as the holographic screen flickered to life. The insignia of the Galactic Council appeared, a regal, star-studded emblem that usually represented order and authority. But today, the symbol seemed to mock them. The emblem dissolved into the face of a counselor, his expression devoid of any warmth or recognition. The voice that followed was cold and unforgiving. "People of Earth," the counselor began, his tone biting and accusatory. "The Galactic Council has deliberated. Your species has become a threat, destabilizing the balance of peace. Earth will be neutralized. An invasion fleet has been dispatched. Prepare to be extinguished." Silence descended over the room, thick and suffocating. The transmission ended as abruptly as it had begun, leaving only a bitter echo in its wake. Jonah's hands were clenched into fists, his knuckles white. It couldn't be true. Earth had never broken the Council's laws, never sought to conquer or disrupt the galaxy. They had always played by the rules, even at the cost of their own ambitions. Yet here they were, marked for destruction, as if they were no more than a disease to be eradicated. The command center erupted in chaos. Officers were shouting, scrambling to comprehend what had just happened. Panicked messages flooded the channels as Earth's leaders demanded answers, their disbelief palpable. Jonah swallowed hard, his mouth dry. He could feel the tremors of fear coursing through the room, through his own body. It was impossible, inconceivable. Yet the undeniable truth hung over them: the Council was coming, and they meant to destroy everything. Jonah forced himself to breathe, to focus. He activated his comms, addressing his superior, General Anders, who appeared on a nearby screen. The general's face was grim, his eyes narrowed with a mixture of shock and steel-hard determination. "General, we need orders," Jonah said, his voice steadier than he felt. "The Council's fleet could be here at any moment." General Anders took a breath, as though drawing strength from the weight of his position. "Begin scrambling our defenses," he commanded. "Alert every regional command. We need full mobilization immediately. We will not go down without a fight." Jonah nodded, feeling a rush of adrenaline, equal parts fear and resolve. He turned to Reyes, who was already working furiously at her station. The command center buzzed with frantic energy, orders flying across channels as Earth's military forces began to assemble. In the back of his mind, Jonah couldn't help but feel the crushing weight of their disadvantage. Humanity had technology, yes, but nothing compared to the Galactic Council's Armada. Their enemy had warships that could block out the stars, weapons that could turn worlds to dust. Jonah's hands flew across his console, coordinating the regional defenses with a precision born of training and desperation. He knew morale was hanging by a thread, and his voice, though calm, carried a sense of urgency. "Focus on shielding our most populated regions," he ordered. "Prioritize evacuation protocols if necessary. We need to give our people hope." Despite his instructions, he could see the fear etched into the faces of those around him. Officers glanced at each other, their eyes filled with questions no one could answer. Were they fighting a losing battle? Did they even have a chance? Jonah pushed those thoughts aside, refusing to let doubt paralyze him. His world, his home, was under threat, and he would not let it fall without a fight. Reyes leaned over, her voice a whisper. "Do you think we can hold them off?" she asked, her voice laced with a rare vulnerability. Jonah met her gaze, seeing the flicker of fear she couldn't hide. He wanted to give her the reassurance they all craved, but the truth was a jagged edge, sharp and unforgiving. Instead, he spoke with conviction he didn't entirely feel. We have to. If we don't, everything we fought for is gone. A heavy silence fell between them before Reyes gave a resolute nod and turned back to her work. Jonah could feel the pressure building, the sense of impending doom closing in like a noose. Yet in that moment, his fear crystallized into something harder, something unbreakable. If the Galactic Council thought they could erase humanity without a fight, they were gravely mistaken. Humanity's survival hung by a thread, but Jonah was ready to defend that thread with every ounce of strength he had. The command center continued to buzz with activity, but now the atmosphere was thick with desperation. Jonah, now tasked with coordinating regional defenses, felt the crushing weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Every decision he made could mean the difference between survival and annihilation. Officers and technicians rushed around him, relaying orders, but Jonah could feel the mounting sense of dread. The technological disparity between Earth's defenses and the Galactic Council's overwhelming force was undeniable. Earth had its ships, its weapons, but nothing could match the Council's war machines, which were crafted to dominate entire star systems. Jonah ran a hand over his face, forcing himself to focus. There was no time to let fear consume him. Every second mattered. We need to reinforce the planetary shield grid, he ordered, his voice commanding but tight with strain. Redirect power from non-essential sectors if necessary, and get all defense squadrons in position. Despite his orders, he could see the fear in his team's eyes. Morale was crumbling, and he was fighting an uphill battle to keep it from collapsing entirely. He leaned closer to Lieutenant Reyes, who was working tirelessly beside him. "How are the regional forces holding up?" he asked, though he dreaded the answer. Reyes glanced at him, exhaustion etched across her face. "Barely, sir. People are terrified. Some units are already reporting desertions. They don't think we can win." Jonah clenched his jaw, trying to think of something, anything, that could give them hope. Before he could respond, a sharp, high-pitched beep cut through the noise. It came from one of the main consoles. The room fell momentarily silent. A collective breath held as everyone waited. Jonah turned toward the source of the disturbance, his heart pounding. "What is it?" he demanded. One of the technicians, a young man with sweat beading on his forehead, stared at his screen in disbelief. "Sir, we're receiving an encrypted message," he stammered. It's unlike anything we've seen before. I'm putting it through now." The screen filled with a cascade of symbols and characters, the encryption complex and alien. Jonah felt a surge of confusion and then, unexpectedly, a glimmer of hope. The message decrypted itself slowly, revealing a simple yet powerful phrase: "Earth's fleet is hidden. It's time to activate it." Jonah's breath caught in his throat. He turned to Reyes, who looked equally stunned. "Earth's fleet," she whispered, her voice filled with disbelief. "What fleet?" Jonah's mind raced, trying to process the message. He had never heard of any hidden fleet, and as far as he knew, Earth's defenses were already stretched to their limit. Yet something about the cryptic words stirred a memory deep within him, a half-forgotten story from his youth. He remembered his grandfather telling tales of powerful ships hidden in secret, buried beneath the oceans or hidden in underground bunkers. Ships designed to defend Earth when all hope seemed lost. "It can't be real," Reyes said, shaking her head. "It's just a myth." But Jonah felt something shift in his gut, a sense of determination rising to the surface. "Maybe it's not," he said, his voice steadier than he expected. "We have to find out, if there's even a chance." Reyes looked at him, the spark of hope catching in her eyes. "What do we do?" Jonah activated his comms again, connecting directly to the high command. His heart hammered in his chest, but his voice remained firm. "General Anders, we've received a message," he began, summarizing the cryptic transmission. "We need to investigate the legends of a hidden fleet." There was a long, tense pause before Anders replied, his voice laced with skepticism. "A hidden fleet. Commander, we're in the middle of preparing for an invasion. We don't have time for myths." Jonah's jaw tightened. "With all due respect, sir, if there's even a chance this fleet exists, we can't afford not to try. We need every advantage we can get. Another pause, then a resigned sigh. Do what Anders finally said. Send teams to investigate. We'll put whatever resources we can spare into the search. As soon as the line disconnected, Jonah sprang into action. Recon units were dispatched to rumored locations deep beneath the oceans and into the most secure underground bunkers. Time ticked by agonizingly slowly, the tension growing as they waited for any sign, any confirmation. The hours felt like days, but then, finally, the reports started coming in. Commander, a voice crackled over the comms, barely able to contain the excitement. "We found them. The bunkers are real. The ships are real." Jonah rushed to the viewing screens as the first images came through. Vast underground hangars hidden for decades began to awaken. Massive, sleek ships, armored in black alloys and bristling with weapons far more advanced than anything Earth had ever revealed, started to hum with life. Ocean floors trembled as colossal submarines emerged, rising to the surface like leviathans ready for battle. The awe in the command center was palpable. People stood frozen, their eyes wide as they watched the hidden Armada come to life. Jonah felt a rush of hope, his heart pounding with renewed determination. These ships, once a legend, now stood as Earth's last and greatest defense. Reyes turned to him, her eyes shining. This could change everything, she said, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and excitement. Jonah nodded, his mind already racing with plans. The odds were still against them, but now they had a fighting chance. As the ships powered up, their sleek forms gleaming and engines roaring to life, he knew one thing for certain: Earth would not fall easily. Humanity had a secret weapon, and they were ready to use it. The sky above Earth darkened, eclipsed by the massive warships of the Galactic Council as they emerged from hyperspace. Their arrival was like a storm, ships so vast they blotted out the stars, casting deep shadows over the world below. The largest of the warships hung in the atmosphere like titans of war, bristling with weapons capable of annihilating entire continents. Jonah stood at the main viewing screen in the command center, his heart hammering in his chest as the enormity of the enemy fleet became clear. It was a grim, awe-inspiring sight, a reminder of just how small and vulnerable Earth was compared to the galaxy's oldest and most powerful force. But there was no time to dwell on fear. Jonah steeled himself, turning to his team. "Activate Earth's fleet," he ordered, his voice unwavering. The command was relayed, and within moments the oceans heaved as the hidden armada of humanity rose to meet the Council's might. Colossal ships emerged from the sea, their sleek black hulls gleaming with water and bristling with cannons and energy weapons. Deep underground bunkers opened and ancient warships ascended, rumbling with power as they took to the sky. The sight was awe-inspiring, a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of humankind. Jonah felt a spark of hope, the weight of despair lifting, even if only a little. The hidden fleet was a marvel, armed with advanced technology humanity had kept hidden, and now it was their last line of defense. "All units, prepare for battle," Jonah commanded, his voice echoing across the comms. The officers around him braced themselves, their fear tempered with the resolve to protect their home. The fleets converged above Earth, a dance of colossal machines preparing for war. Jonah watched as Earth's warships accelerated toward the enemy, sleek and agile compared to the hulking behemoths of the Galactic Council. "First strike," Jonah ordered. "Hit them hard, and don't give them a chance to regroup." Earth's fleet launched the first attack with a precision that caught the Council off guard. Streams of energy fire and missile barrages erupted from humanity's ships, crashing into the enemy's unprepared formation. Explosions lit up the sky, and one of the Council's smaller vessels was obliterated, a bright burst of flame and metal debris. The initial blow landed with a satisfying ferocity, proof that Earth was not as weak as the Council had believed. Cheers erupted in the command center, a brief moment of triumph that Jonah allowed himself to savor. But the reality of the battle quickly became apparent. The Council's warships recovered from their surprise, their heavy guns firing back with devastating power. Energy blasts the size of skyscrapers shot across the battlefield, narrowly missing some of Earth's ships while obliterating others. The command center trembled from the sheer force of the onslaught, and Jonah gritted his teeth. "Evasive maneuvers," he called out, his voice cutting through the chaos. We can't afford to be sitting targets, the officers relayed his orders, and Earth's fleet began a desperate dance, using agility and cunning to evade the Council's weapons. Jonah's mind raced, thinking of every possible tactic, every way to outmaneuver an enemy that outgunned them. Sweat dripped down his back, but he couldn't let himself falter. The crew depended on him, and Earth needed his leadership now more than ever. Despite their agility and advanced technology, the Council's sheer numbers were overwhelming. Each of Earth's victories came at a cost, ships exploding in brilliant bursts of light, lives lost in an instant. Jonah clenched his fists, his heart aching with every defeat, but he refused to let the losses paralyze him. Focus fire on the lead warship, he commanded. If we can break their formation, we might have a chance. The battle raged on, a desperate struggle of will and ingenuity against brute force. Earth's fleet managed to strike crucial blows, exploiting the Council's weaknesses whenever possible, yet the enemy's reinforcements kept coming, relentless and unyielding. Jonah's ship shuddered under the impact of a near miss, alarms blaring as systems struggled to stabilize. He glanced at Reyes, who was drenched in sweat but focused, her hands flying across her console. "We can't keep this up forever," she shouted, her voice barely audible over the chaos. "They're wearing us down." Jonah knew she was right. Their early successes had given them hope, but the reality was sinking and this victory would not come easily, if at all. Yet even as despair threatened to take hold, Jonah found himself drawing strength from his crew's bravery. They fought with everything they had, refusing to give an inch. He had to match their courage, had to find a way to outthink an enemy that had centuries of war experience. "Divert power to forward shields," Jonah ordered. "And prepare to use the cloaking mechanism. The hidden feature was a last resort, a way to vanish and strike from the shadows. But deploying it now could buy them precious time. We need to regroup and strike where they least expect." Earth's fleet continued to fight, smaller but unyielding, a testament to humanity's indomitable spirit. The battle raged on, a relentless clash of fire and metal, but a sliver of hope began to shine as Earth's fleet fought back with newfound vigor. Jonah stood firm at the command center, shouting orders as their warships pressed the attack. But just as it seemed they were gaining ground, the sky above Earth erupted with new horrors. The Council's reinforcements burst forth from hyperspace, their formation centered around a monstrous flagship. It was an indomitable beast of a vessel, bristling with cannons and armored in shimmering, unbreakable shields. Jonah's heart sank. The sight of the flagship, larger than anything he had ever seen, seemed to cast a shadow over every hopeful thought. The battle was far from won, and now the stakes were higher than ever. Earth's ships, already battered and worn, began to feel the crushing weight of the Council's counterattack. Energy blasts rained down from the enemy's reinforcements, and ship after ship crumbled under the onslaught. The command center was a blur of alarms and frantic voices, reports of casualties and critical damage filling the air. "Commander, we're losing too many," Reyes said, her voice breaking under the strain. "We can't keep up with this." Jonah gripped the console, feeling the tremors of every hit the enemy landed. His mind raced for a solution, something, anything, that could turn the tide. They had one last trick up their sleeve, but it was a gamble. The cloaking mechanism, a hidden feature of their fleet, was untested in such dire circumstances. Yet now, faced with the indestructible flagship preparing for a final devastating attack, Jonah knew they had no choice. The flagship's main cannon began to glow, gathering energy for a blast that could shatter entire continents. Jonah's pulse thundered in his ears. "All ships, activate the cloaking mechanism on my mark," he ordered, his voice cracking but resolute. Now, one by one, Earth's warships shimmered and vanished from view, disappearing just in time as the Council's flagship unleashed its wrath. A massive wave of energy tore through the space where Earth's fleet had been, the sheer force of it causing the planet's atmosphere to tremble. Jonah held his breath, his fingers digging into the console. The command center fell silent, everyone waiting to see if their desperate move had worked. Moments later, Earth's fleet reappeared, emerging from the shadows in a perfect flanking position. Jonah's heart surged with hope. "All ships, target the flagship," he commanded. "Hit them with everything we've got." The element of surprise was devastating. Earth's warships unleashed a coordinated barrage, their weapons striking the enemy flagship's shields with relentless fury. Sparks and fire erupted from the Council's once impenetrable armor, and for the first time, Jonah saw their enemy falter. The shields of the flagship began to flicker, their shimmering glow dimming under the onslaught. "Keep the pressure on," Jonah shouted, his voice breaking through the chaos. The crews of Earth's ships fought with renewed determination, their courage ignited by the sight of the enemy's vulnerability. The flagship's hull buckled, and massive chunks of metal shattered away, spiraling into the void. The Council's fleet, seeing their indestructible warship crumble, hesitated. The once overwhelming force of their reinforcements faltered, their formation breaking under the relentless assault. Jonah's heart raced, but he couldn't let himself believe victory was assured. Not yet. They had to see this through. "Commander, their flagship is breaking apart," Reyes exclaimed, her eyes wide with disbelief and hope. Jonah clenched his fists, barely daring to breathe. The enemy flagship shuddered, its core systems failing, and then with a final cataclysmic explosion, the vessel was no more. A deafening cheer erupted in the command center, but Jonah barely heard it. His eyes stayed on the view screen, watching as the remaining Council forces began to retreat, their once dominant armada in disarray. Humanity had done the impossible. They had defended their world against the galaxy's most powerful force, and for now they had won. Yet Jonah felt no sense of triumph, only the heavy burden of what this victory meant. The Council would not forget or forgive. This battle had changed everything. Reyes looked at him, her expression a mixture of relief and dread. "We did it," she said, her voice trembling. "But what now?" Jonah took a breath, the weight of the future pressing down on him. "Now," he said, his voice low but resolute, "we prepare for whatever comes next. We've shown them what we're capable of, and the galaxy will never be the same." The stars above Earth seemed to shine brighter in the aftermath, a universe forever changed by humanity's stand. They had fought and won, but the uncertainty of what lay ahead loomed large. Yet one thing was certain: Earth would never back down.